you have a little bit of a technique that you use as part of that invitation. And you were just talking about care. And I was hoping you could share a little bit about that technique or the reminder about,
Yeah.
finding out that area of where of the thing you can share. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
There's when I'm in my office directly above, we're all on video conferences all the time nowadays, right? Just above the camera is a post-it note that says three words: make me care. It's a constant reminder. In fact, what's really funny is during the pandemic, my daughter would use my office, for just getting out of the house. And suddenly I realized that post-it note was not in my handwriting, it was in my daughter's handwriting. And I love that she swapped it out because it feels even more authentic and precious to me that my daughter's handwriting,
Yeah.
right? But the idea of how, when I'm interacting with anybody, how can I create a place where they care? And a lot of that stems from, like you said, it's me putting it out there. It's me being both vulnerable for, hey, I need your help. You have to expose that. Brene Brown would be so proud of us having this conversation. But you have to have that vulnerability, but you also have the confidence. Confidence, I don't know if that's the right word, but the comfort in ambiguity. Comfort of, hey, this may go nowhere. I'm doing this because I've learned in life that when I create an environment where folks are invited to care, where folks are invited to be vulnerable, where I'm not going to say a safe space or anything like that, but a place where it's okay to be silly, to be smart, to be curious, to be inquisitive. When they do engage, when they accept that invitation, when they knock on the door, when they come in to this place you've created, great things happen. One of my favorite stories is over the summer, my family and I, we went to New York City early in the morning. I'm a dad, so I wake up early and go and get some coffee. So I go to the Starbucks across from the hotel. We're in Chelsea, kind of a cool hip neighborhood. And I walk in this cute little Starbucks and there's, 3 or 4 other customers and, 2 folks working behind the counter. And, place my order, same thing, double short Americano. And my Mike is a pretty common name. So I'll often say Mike G. And just saying Mike G. And this woman behind the counter, she's probably in her late 20s, black woman, way cooler and hipper. She lives in Manhattan. I'm a guest and I, kind of look like a tourist. She goes, Mike G. Her eyebrow goes up. I'm like, yeah. I said, but the way you say it is important. You can't just say Mike G. You have to say Mike G in the house. Again, 8 a.m. on a Friday in New York City. And so she her face lights up. She laughs. She goes, okay. And she writes it on the cup. And then, a couple minutes later, what do you hear? Mike G in the house. And again, there's nobody there, but we all walk up and I get my coffee. It was a fun experience, right? And so just the transaction, I just needed caffeine. I was, jet lagged, needed caffeine in the morning. But that little transaction was so much more than just, here's $4 or $5. Can I have a coffee, please? And, it turned into something more. And I didn't even realize how great that experience was until the next morning when Julia, my daughter, again, 14-year-old, goes with me to the Starbucks. And there's few things more embarrassing to a 14-year-old girl than her dad in Manhattan, in a cool place. And so, she places her order for her drink. I place my order, and amazingly, the same woman, same barista's there. And she says, I don't need your name. And she writes it down. And, this whole transaction is lost on my daughter, who's probably looking at her phone or looking around. So sure enough, a few minutes go by and my daughter's drink comes up and mine and another Mike G in the house. And my daughter's looking around, first panic. Wait, what? What's happening? And then she realizes and so I got to reconnect and have another experience with this barista over just coffee. And I'll never, ever see her again for the rest of my life, right? But as my daughter and I are walking back to the hotel, she's like, Daddy, how do you do that? Why? What's going on? And I said, sweetie, I do those things 100 times a day. 100 times a day, I put out an invitation, Mike G. And then her eyebrow goes up. So I know I can go a little further. And I'm like, in the house, and 94 times out of 100, nothing happens. It's just a normal transaction. It's like, okay, Mike G, I'll get your coffee in a second, or, whatever's going on. And nothing happens. And I don't feel bad about those moments. I have they're just whoever I'm interacting with. But those 6 times a day, that's what is exciting. That's what makes this experience better. And so make me care. That woman has no reason to care about my last name. She has no reason to care about my personality. All she's there to do is to take my order and hand me a double short Americano with a little bit of room, and everything's done. But she was in a place at that moment where she did care. I'm like, gee, huh? And then I'm like, oh, in the house. And then she went and confirmed that. And so what started off as a silly little nothing turned into an experience on that Friday and then again on Saturday. And then I got to have a conversation with my daughter about this. So I'll always look for those little opportunities. And for me, it's, put the invitation out, hoping that the other person will accept, but recognizing that they don't always want to, and it can be a little overwhelming. But I think I just love that little fun story of our vacation.
That so much to unpack in that, because like, what would happen if it wasn't just 6 times a day? What if it was, 60 times a day, 100 times a day? Would that be exhausting?
It might be.
It might be. It might be a little overwhelming, and it would obviously be less special. And what you're doing,
maybe.
Oh, I would think so. I would think if every experience, everyone would be shouting Mike G in the house wherever you go, and after a while it'd be a little like, okay, cool, now I got to come up with a new routine. But I think that invitation with that barista, who, she's probably had hundreds of people come through the line already at 7 a.m. in the morning. She's going to have 100 more. She's going to have to take out the trash. She's going to have to make that same drink over and over again. And, New Yorkers do have a little bit of a stereotype of not trying to, they're just trying to get through their day. And when you're trying to navigate through a town of 8 million people, like just navigating from home to work is really tough. And so like your invitation there was really an invitation to joy. And there was no, it was not part of the transaction. It was nothing required, but you made that person's day a little bit brighter, when their job is supposed to be making the customer's day a little bit brighter. So you kind of flipped, you found that place of sharing a moment of joy. And it was so impactful the next day when you went in, you were able to share it again, because it had impact. Probably not in that moment, but who knows what impact that had for that person for the rest of the day. And then you had the opportunity to have the conversation with your daughter, who's curious about this as well, who, talk about this generational gift that your grandfather gave to you, that you're giving to your daughter. And the fact that the little note above your camera is in her handwriting. And it, again, hopefully she's picking up, this isn't a way to manipulate the situation. It's by you spending the time to curate, to cultivate that connection, by tapping into the thing that the other person cares about. When it's reciprocated, there's magic created in that moment.
Yeah, no doubt.
And that's what makes those 6 moments so special.
Yeah.
And this is your superhero power.
There you go.
That's pretty cool. When you think about what you do for your job, what you do professionally, tell me about how creating authentic connections helps you achieve your passion, your purpose.
Spending most of my career in technology and consulting, I'm working with people, right? And people with any number of initiatives going on, and demands for their time, for their attention. It still applies to, I guess, a barista making coffee, right? You've got your job you got to do. But when I think about why we do what we do, we're solving technology, we're solving business problems, but really it comes down to, who are the people we're trying to impact? I'll tell you, a lot of my job is in sales. And so I almost want a tattoo to my arm. Whenever I'm in a conversation with a customer or a client and I don't know what to say, my fallback is, you know what? Help me understand who's your customer. paint a picture of your customer for me. Help me understand what they're trying to accomplish. And sometimes their customers, of course, the person who drops their credit card to buy the thing, the service they're doing, but often, just as often, they're internal customers. Well, I actually work for the CFO, and she needs this from me, or I support the marketing team, I support this team. And I'll ask the people I'm talking to, help me understand who is it? Who's going to be benefited from this? I know you're going to be benefited from it because we're building this thing and it's part of your job, of course, or we're doing this thing together. But get out of your head into the head of the ultimate person. And that takes a level of empathy. It takes a level of curiosity that shifts the conversation away from whatever I'm selling, if it's a bunch of consultants, if it's some technology, and shifts it to how do we solve their problem? And now I'm starting to think more about who that person is and a lot less about myself. And if you're my customer, you're my client, you're somebody who I'm hoping will hire me, my company, whatever it is, I'm getting you to think about that person as well. Now, you probably already are, but together now, suddenly, I've invited you into a new place. It's not a place where I'm selling to Roger. I'm trying to, win you over or woo you. Instead, you and I are now locked arms a little, looking at that customer, looking at the person, that solution we're trying to do, and we're trying to solve for them. And so I'll put those, I guess I didn't realize this, but I'm putting that feeler out there. I'm putting that invitation to tell me about your customer. What service or what are you trying to provide for them? How will you know that you've done your job? How will they know that you've done your job? And just start thinking about that. And suddenly now, not only am I inviting this person I'm working with to care, not about me. I mean, sure, care about me, but care about them, care about what theirs. I'm making them care about something bigger than just what they're talking about. What that does is it opens up their mind. I believe it opens up their mind to start thinking of new and novel ideas. They'll also, in these conversations, start to feel safer about bad ideas. Now let's pivot to when I work with my team. I'm usually in a leadership role where I've convinced Roger that yes, my widget is the right solution to help him solve his customer's problem. Now you have to pivot back to the team at headquarters and say, okay, guys, let me tell you about Roger. Roger is a blah-de-blah at such and such company, and he's got this problem. He needs to solve for Laura, his customer, and whatever she's looking for doing, right? And now I'm trying to get my team to care. And so I'll invite them into not the how do we sell this widget to Roger? How do we deliver this widget to Roger? But more of how do we solve Roger's customer's problem? How do we help Laura be what she needs to be by selling software, services, whatever it is, to Roger? And it invites my team to care a little more. It invites them to think around because they're not just checking off a box, must do this, this, this. It shifts your thinking. It shifts, beyond just the immediacy of it. And so if I can get you to care, I believe that you as my customer, my team on the delivery, a better solution, a better outcome will be there because people care. They need to come through for the Lauras. It lifts us above the day-to-day of what we're doing. And so maybe I gave that, nice barista a tiniest tip. I mean, I gave her a tip, of course, cash, but I gave her another tip. I gave her a tip of that was a little better. That was a little nicer experience, and everyone benefits.